Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 9th. I'm your host, Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday. Big Brother 27 live feeds. It was day 32 in the house, and we have some nominations and a shifting house dynamic as the people who felt like they were in power are now powerless. And with me to talk about it all is Scally. How you doing, Scally?
Oh, hello, hello. Frankly, Taran, I could not be more excited to be here. I'm very, very happy about many of the things going on. So let's talk about them.
Yes. Now, this is a long day of, again, shifting dynamics. So I want to try to be as efficient as possible here. We'll try to summarize some overall movements because it was just a day chock full of game talk throughout the entire day. So we're definitely going to have to sort of condense some things here. It's almost like this is a week one scenario with how much things are shifting. Of course, as you know, Ava won the HOH the night before, and she has already indicated that she knows what she's going to do, which is nominate Keanu, Vince, and Zach, with Morgan as the replacement. Now, what she doesn't know is that she might need more than one replacement. If somebody other than Zach wins the veto and uses it on someone other than Zach, then Zach uses his 10K veto. That would require two replacement nominees, of course. That also could happen if Zach himself wins the veto, chooses to use it on someone else, and then also uses his own 10K veto on himself. That would also require two replacement nominees. Ava does not know this, but we do. So keep that in mind as we cycle through the events of the day as well.
Yep. She definitely has come through, and there's been a couple renom options, but it does feel like once you land on one, even though maybe you've thrown around a couple of other people, things could shift very quickly in that moment. You get a little spun around, but hold out hope.
Yes. People in the chat saying, well, Keanu hasn't been in power before. Not if you ask Keanu.
Yep.
Okay, so we know that this is where things stand. So the big thing pre-nomination ceremony is that Ava has no desire to do one-on-ones or really talk to much of anybody prior to the nominations other than the people that she cares to talk to. So she does have a conversation with Rachel. She lets Rachel know what she's going to do, tells her what her speeches are going to be, which are pretty fun. And Rachel's like, I love the speeches. This is going to be iconic. She later tells Ava that that was phenomenal TV. So fantastic stuff there. Ava also floats the idea of the alliance that she was talking about. Herself, Mickey, Rachel, Will, Ashley, maybe even chuck in a Rylie and Catherine in there. Rachel is like, maybe just us with Will and Ashley, I feel. I don't know.
Let's just bring it right down to the core. We all know what's happening here. Don't need to have these extraneous people.
Mm-hmm. Ava, though, is concerned about Ashley and says as much. So they just have this sort of brief exchange. Again, I'm going to say that it's pretty clear to us, at least, that Rachel is not Ava's number one in the house. She is not giving Rachel as much information or as quickly as she is to players like Will or Mickey. Now, speaking of, Ava also has a long conversation with Mickey in the morning before the nominations, where she continues to spell out what she's planning to do and what she plans to say, and also reveals to Mickey the Bond Alliance. Not by name, but that there was an alliance created with Zach, Vinny, herself, Will, and Adrian. And that was part of why it was pretty messed up that Laura nominated Will and Adrian. And so they have a long conversation about this. Mickey is pretty surprised to hear that Zach and Vinny were doing all of that. It starts to click in her mind that now it makes sense that they would go to Ava to try to flip the vote against Will the week before. The big thing here, though, is that Mickey spends a lot of time up in the HOH room with Ava shortly before the nomination ceremony, while continuing to claim that she had nothing to do with it and didn't know it was coming. And that is going to continue to be harder and harder to believe for the other side throughout the day.
Yeah, when Ava's refusing to do one-on-ones with 90% of the house, and also people are not super likely to give Ava a ton of credit, as we will see, then those one or two people that she is willing to talk to are going to be getting quite a bit of the flack for whatever she decides to do.
Yes. So there's a lot of that going on, a lot of just like nervousness going on. There's the camera people, they're loving Vince at the moment. He's just like just just so many shots of Vince looking scared, slow zoom ins, fade outs. They're just all over the Vince freak out. There's a little bit of pizza controversy. Somebody ate Mickey's pizza. It was a whole thing. They're having fun with it. It's no Muffin Gate.
No,
let's be real.
It would dream of being as iconic.
But really, Mickey is now sort of in this space, having heard about the Bond alliance, that I do think, because again, there's so much back and forth and wavering and trying to figure out where things are falling now. Mickey had been very much like, screw Morgan. She's all right, but screw her. But maybe we want to keep her around. Actually, you should just throw her on the block. And she's really back and forth about this. The knowledge about the Bond alliance, I think, helps push her back in the direction of maybe we should work a little bit more with Morgan. The fact that Lauren was included in that and Morgan wasn't is perhaps an indication to Mickey that that Zach and Lauren, and maybe even Vinny and Lauren, are a bigger concern than Morgan. That Morgan is maybe outside of that hierarchy, or at least that's what it feels like Mickey is feeling. She's not necessarily saying it outright, because by the end of the day, she is sort of more leaning toward the idea of we should maybe put Lauren up as the replacement nominee, not Morgan. And I think that a huge part of that comes from this alliance that she's going to be telling other people about throughout the day.
Yeah, nice to see that Mickey has come to the conclusion when you're looking for a renom that you put up someone that you're less closely aligned with.
Interesting thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where she came up with that, because that's like a totally groundbreaking idea. So all of this is going on, of course, throughout the day before the nominations, but we do eventually get to the nominations where we finally lock it in. Ava makes her speech. Keanu, Vince, and Zach are nominated for eviction. Zach is blindsided by this nomination. He was not given a heads up, and he was, in fact, told he was good by Ava.
Yeah, this diva, she has a mind of her own. I'm so excited. She is doing what so many of us wanted her to do, but the house, not as excited. Zach has talked about how he was sitting right across the table from Ava. She told him he was good. She's a liar. What happened? Zach is not happy, despite knowing he has a get out of jail free card.
Yes. Now, this is the thing. I tweeted this yesterday too, because Zach was so upset. And obviously you would be, but it's I think when you think about it, you realize, oh man, this twist, this power that he has, he really thought he was going to keep that 10K, didn't he? Like, he really thought, like, oh man, I'm kind of crushing it. I'm not going to have to use my 10K. I'm going to keep it for myself. Maybe in my final speech, be like, hey, I had a 10K power that I got to keep. And now he may need to use his 10K. And not only does he need to use it, meaning he doesn't get to keep the $10,000, but he has to give it to the person that just pissed him off by putting him on the block, which means Ava blindsiding him means that he needs to now give her 10K possibly. And I think that's probably a bit of a wrinkle in his feelings.
It's so funny. I am so excited for this to potentially come out where he has been just absolutely sulking. Every one of his allies is, and even not his allies, are just comforting him, only to then find out that he knew he was good the whole time. They might be the ones in it, a problem.
Yeah. So yes, Zach is quite annoyed. Now, I will say, obviously, these are pretty good nominations. I don't love the way Ava is handling the HOH, not really talking to anybody outside of her closest allies. It is making it increasingly obvious who her closest allies are. And the problem with that too is that with Mickey being one of her closest allies and Mickey continuing to like play both sides and try to continue to stay in with Zach and Vince and them. She's not doing the thing that she should be doing as the HOH to try to make sure that the other side turns on each other. People were comparing this earlier. It is giving a little bit of Jessica Milagros in BB21, where it was like, great noms, let's follow it up with some solid gameplay. And it was like, okay. Not necessarily doing the groundwork, the legwork needed to really ensure this lands properly, but still, it's definitely shifting things around in a significant direction. And overall, I think still definitely good for Ava and her allies, and still going to be in a positive direction. But I do wish that she were being a little more active, a little more conversational. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. It is not the best. And I would say that even when people are trying to then go for some post-nomination conversations, like, for example, when she is talking to Zach and he's trying to get basically anything out of her, she's making zero eye contact, looking at the ground, like, frankly, Zach, I thought you could take care of yourself. And like, it's just like, I don't know what to do. So people aren't really blaming Ava yet. It's kind of like, even if we win HOH, maybe Ava's not the biggest issue for us to go after next week. But at the same time, it is exposing a decent amount of her game.
My biggest thing is that outside of the conversation with Rachel, where she talked about potentially putting a thing together, and talked to Will about potentially putting a thing together, she hasn't had conversations with people like Rylie and Catherine, people that she is relying on to be like on her side in this group. She hasn't gathered any votes. She hasn't elicited any promises. She hasn't gathered any information from anybody outside of her closest group. There's a reason why one-on-ones are just standard gameplay for HOHs. And I really feel like she shot herself in the foot by not having them, because people like Keanu and Kelly and Rylie and Catherine, people that that are theoretically third parties in this battle, none of them feel any kind of gratitude toward Ava. In fact, many of them are feeling kind of upset with Ava over these decisions, and that's not really what you would prefer to have here. You want to use the power to pull people to you, not push them away. Now, I say this because this is a critique I would have on a normal season of Big Brother. I just want to be clear. This is still head over heels better, not even remotely close, than every other HOH has been like in the negative 80 percentile, and hers is in the positives by far, easily. So we're living in a different world. I'm still giving critiques on it, but it's just easily the best HOH so far.
Yes. Yeah. Just because the bar has been dropped does not mean like the 10 does not exist. So unfortunately, Ava has in these conversations also kind of been like, everyone's going to go up on the block at some point, like probably even me next week. It's like, okay, well, we don't need to accept that. Like we can like put some things into place so that that doesn't happen.
Yes. So yes, Zach does go and talk to Ava and wants an explanation. And if Scally, you're right, the explanation is largely like, I mean, listen, I get that you're probably mad at me. He's like, I'm not mad at you. She's like, it would be fine if you were. It would be fine if you were. I just felt like, I thought maybe you didn't trust me. You didn't trust me, and that's fine. You don't need to trust me. You don't need to trust me. And Zach's like, hey, no, it's not. I do trust you. Like, I don't know why you thought I didn't trust you. He's like, I heard you talking. I did. It's fine. It's fine. It's just, quite frankly, I feel like we were in a bit of an alliance, and then maybe you didn't really talk to me much about it. And Zach was like, I felt like we were on the same page when we talked about the vote the other week. She's like, yeah, we did. But then I feel like you're close to who you're close to, and you don't really talk to me all that much, and so it's I get it. You don't need to trust me. You can be mad. It's fine. Listen, I'm sorry. I am sorry.
Yes. We got, frankly, I thought you were mad at me and you were nervous about me winning the HOH. Frankly, we haven't really talked a lot of game, even though we had an alliance that blew up. Frankly, I want you up on the block so that you could play in the veto. But Zach still comes away from this conversation like, she didn't give me any reasons. I have no idea why I'm on the block. I didn't get a single reason out of Ava.
Now, after Zach leaves, Ava gets up, walks over to the bathroom door, peeks in, and Will is peeking out of the bathroom like the little toilet door. Is he gone? Very funny.
The shot of both of them like creeping around is so funny. Like she's like, "Will, go in the bathroom, and if he goes, then pretend you're gonna take a shower." Like, I don't know, like you got to do something. So very funny, and she's confirming with Will, like, "Did that sound good? Did I do a good job?" It's like, "Yeah, you did amazing." Like, but I like the vote of confidence at least. Thanks, Will.
She also has a conversation with Vince. It's also pretty similar. Only Vince is doing his Vince thing. It's funny too because Vince has, I would say, typically been a pretty good active conversationalist. It's part of why he tends to be pretty decent in these one-on-ones. He does listen and respond to other people in ways that not many reality contestants are very good at doing. And he doesn't have that in this conversation. He's lost that ability. He is just a wall of speech against Ava, where with Zach she was like, well, this is the thing. And this one, she's like, well, and Vince is like, and so the thing about me is that I am an introvert. And she's like, I get that. And so the thing is that I just feel like when people call me to do one-on-ones, it makes it look like I'm playing both sides, but I'm not really playing both sides. That's not really. And then I get why I might not be somebody that you trust, but I really thought that we bonded over being awkward, and so yeah, I do. And so then I just don't understand why it's like,
Look, Vince got a new nickname, Vinny the Lip. And he is giving a lot of mouth service. He is going to talk nonstop, make that nickname very true as he can.
So that's really, Ava's portion of that. Now, Zach in particular is really running around the house saying, this was not Ava. Why is he saying this? Because historically, Zach he's talked about Ava being a nothing player. If you go all the way back to the very beginning of the season, Zach does not respect floaters, right? And he's talked a lot about how Ava sleeps all day and he doesn't really respect her game. This is all prior to this week. And on top of that, he always felt like he had her locked. When they talked about the melting pot being like the cookout and having a person, he was like, "Oh yeah, I could have Ava as my person." And so he does not think that Ava could possibly like come to this conclusion that she should target him or Vinny on her own, and fully believes that it must be that somebody else got into her ear. When they did the will vote and they were like, actually, we're going to back down. They were like, wow, did the person that sleeps all day just somehow manage to accidentally influence this vote? And it's like, no, she intentionally influenced this vote. But that's the mindset that Zach has, and I think is very telling for why throughout the day he is so determined to figure out who was behind this. And he thinks Rachel is the biggest culprit here, that Rachel must have done this. However, throughout the day, he keeps getting pushback on that. Morgan, I don't think Rachel did this. Like, Rachel barely even talked to Ava. The only people that Ava talked to significantly were Will and Mickey. And Will and Mickey keep being mentioned. Will, Mickey, Ava. Will, Mickey, Ava. They're the only people she talked to. Did you see how long she talked with Will and Mickey? Mickey was up there for like 2 hours before the nomination ceremony. Will and Mickey. And he keeps going, but Rachel? And they're like, And so by the end of the day, they are starting to talk a little bit about like, so Mickey, huh? Did
Look at
Mickey
that.
do this? Can we trust Mickey?
I think it's a little bit of a coping mechanism. Like, no one wants to think they got, especially by someone that they've been calling a floater all season. Like, it couldn't possibly be that I had a blind spot in this game and that I underestimated someone. It has to be the person that I have been against this whole game, thinking that they were the big villain here. They are obviously the cause of my downfall. And as much as you might want to, make that up in your own mind, the evidence was so clearly there that that was not the case, that feels like it's starting to break through, at least.
Mm-hmm. Now, Keanu is also pushing this pretty hard. Keanu was another person because Morgan was saying, I don't think it's Rachel. And Morgan was also starting to feel like, is Mickey turning on us? Morgan is starting to get a little suspicious. But Keanu's pushing this hard because Keanu has a lot of incentive to do so. That Mickey influenced this. Mickey wanted this. Mickey has wanted Vinny and Zach gone for a while. Mickey is influencing Ava's HOH. It's Mickey and Will and Ava. They are together. And Ashley. It's the four of them. And when people bring up, well, what about Rachel? He says, nah, Rachel's not in it.
He's like, none
Rachel's
of you
actually
know.
close with me.
We have a brother-sister relationship. I'm the closest person to her in this house. You have no idea. It's like, okay, well, if that's true, maybe we don't forecast that to the whole house. But at the same time, like, okay, look at Keanu actually, him and Rachel semi-becoming a little thing. Like, this is maybe not going to be the most under the radar or valuable thing, but it's very, very entertaining nonetheless.
It's wild seeing Keanu sort of live past his expiration date, if that makes sense, in the house. Like, he was supposed to be a week 1 boot, but then Vince didn't put him on the block. Then he was supposed to be a week 2 boot, but he had the power. And then he was supposed to be a week 3 boot, and then he won the veto. And he's gotten to the point where they're starting to not target him. Now, he still could leave this week, to be very frank here, to quote Ava. But he's a week 1 boot that is now in week 5. And what does a player like that look like, right? And it looks like Keanu, where he actually does have like a head on his shoulders strategically. And I really, I know that this sounds weird. Strategically, I think he's above average in this house. Now, obviously, that's not saying much, but genuinely, he knows the basics of strategy better than most in the house.
Yep.
But his reads are still so bad. But sometimes he gets enough information and things are obvious enough that he gets kind of close. And so he'll be reading one thing right, but then be wildly off about another thing. And like when it comes to Rachel, she's either his best friend or his worst enemy. And he often gets it wrong. Like when she's trying to be his friend, he's like, nah, she's out to get me. And when she is kind of his enemy, he's like, nah, she's my best friend now. Yep. But they are now in a position where they are at least slightly aligned. Rachel doesn't want Keanu to go. I wouldn't say she's as locked in for Keanu as he thinks she is, but that's fine. The core underlying thing about Keanu that he continues to get wrong and will continue to get wrong, I think, for the entirety of the game until these people leave or he leaves, is that he still feels like the unexpendables are a thing. He still feels like Rylie is his guy, and that for as much as Vince has done, he's still valuable to Keanu's game, and maybe Vince is valuable to Keanu's game just in the sense that I don't think Vince is valuable to most people's games, but for Keanu, Vince has become enough of a target that he kind of is valuable at this point now. But that's the biggest sort of blind spot for Keanu at this moment. But either way, this is going around the Mickey, Will, Ava, throw in Ashley group. It is generally the group that they're trying to form, and they are fairly clocked here.
Yeah.
But Mickey's inclusion is the important one.
Keanu's been very funny this week. I mean, he goes up on the block for the third week in a row, and he's like, I feel great. I don't think I'm the target this week. I don't think I need to win veto this week, to the point where I'm almost getting a little worried about what Keanu will do if he wins veto. But he is very much just like laying back. Doesn't matter that I'm on the block. This is, Kelly for her first 2 weeks on the block, feeling very relaxed. I'm going to win a competition. Not a big deal. I feel great.
Mm-hmm. Well, Zach goes around looking for somebody who is willing to use the veto on him, and fairly quickly kind of realizes Mickey's maybe not that person, which is only going to further his suspicion of her, and goes around asking multiple people, including Rylie. Rylie doesn't give a great answer. He's kind of trying to hedge as much as possible. They're in the bathroom during this conversation, and in the middle of it, Zach is like, so yeah, I don't know what you're thinking, and Rylie's like, oh, hold on. Are the noodles boiling? No? Oh, all right, well, just let me know when they are. Anyway, Zach, about the veto.
To be fair, it's Zach Wright, who does not do a great job here, where Rylie is kind of like, at some point we got to draw lines in the sand. So if I got to use the veto, and isn't it Zach who's saying basically, oh, well, I would hate for you to use the veto and then Catherine go up. It's like, don't tell him that. Don't bring that up.
That is generally Riley's excuse, is like, well, I would hate for Catherine to go up. So you know how I feel about Catherine.
It's like this, and that's the problem, is everyone just accepts that. Like, okay, Rylie is my very good ally, but of course he could never risk Catherine, so that's fine. It's okay that he would never use the veto on me.
It is starting to grate on some people. Conversation during the day is the people have started to go like, man, it's so annoying that we can't get out Catherine because we'll piss off Rylie. Wait, is that a problem?
Oh,
is that why showmances suck?
It's almost like a lot of you could have had a big talk with someone last week to put up Catherine. It's almost as if that was so possible last week.
Ashley has a very funny moment where when Mickey starts to talk about maybe we should get Lauren on the block instead of Morgan as the replacement. Ashley is like, freaking Mickey, every time I say I feel close to someone, she wants them gone. I need to say I'm close to Catherine next.
You know what? And it might work. I feel like I don't know. Ashley, not really, most people's bestie in the house, and so if she starts claiming to associate with someone, it actually might reflect negatively on them in many people's eyes.
Truly. So Ava is talking to Lauren as well. Lauren, who she remember has had a final two with. They were the Bond girls. And that final two was basically broken when Lauren won her HOH and had horrible decisions and broke up the Bond alliance. They have had some conversations about like, the two of us, remember? But there's still seeds of a connection there. And so this is basically the one person that Ava is trying to maintain a relationship with through her HOH and use the HOH to help strengthen it again. And she's saying to Lauren, like, hey, I want to keep you safe. I'm doing everything I can to keep you safe. The wording of which is a little strange, and Lauren catches that. She's like, what does that mean? I'm doing everything I can to keep you safe this week.
Yeah.
Like, you choose who goes on the block.
You actually can do everything to keep me safe. So, this is not my favorite to hear.
Mm-hmm. For Lauren's part, she was obviously pretty upset about the choices for nominees, Zach and Vince, two of her closest allies. In fact, I would say straight up her two closest allies. And coming from Ava, somebody that she had a final two with at one point. But it's Lauren, and she is probably the nicest person in the house. And so like even when she comes close to being mad or upset or saying something mean, she's like, oh, I feel so I feel like I just was mean there. I feel like so bad about that. I don't want to be mean.
Yeah, about the meanest you get is like, oh gosh, I'm a little frustrated with Ava. Like, okay, Lauren is pissed.
Meanwhile, Morgan is pissed. Morgan is gonna, of course, spiral around throughout the day, just like I can't believe she's putting up the people that I care about. Is Mickey doing this to take away my people? I wonder why she would think this, Mickey. I wonder if it was the many conversations you had with her last week about how you want to take out her people. So she's really, really concerned about that, talking with Zach and Vince and Lauren about Mickey and how she's concerned about Mickey, and worried about being the replacement nominee. She says, I was sitting right next to Zach when she told both of us that we were good. So clearly that we can't take that one to the bank. And the reality is that, yes, she should be concerned. She is the potential replacement nominee. And given that we know there is almost definitely going to be at least one replacement nominee, things look pretty gnarly for Morgan right now. If we assume that Zach is the only person that comes off the block, let's say for some reason the veto doesn't get used and Zach uses his 10K and Zach comes off, Morgan goes up. It's Morgan versus Vinny versus Keanu. That's very dangerous. If Vinny wins the blockbuster, I think Morgan's done. If Keanu wins the blockbuster and it's Morgan versus Vinny, it actually still might be kind of bad for Morgan because Rylie and Catherine like Vince. They do not like Morgan, and they might be the swing votes in that scenario. They may not have the votes to take out Vinny in that spot because, again, Ava has not exactly done the legwork to make sure that she has the votes to take out Vinny in this spot or to elicit any kind of promises there. And that's almost best case scenario for Morgan because that assumes that only Zach comes off the block. If also Vince comes off the block or Keanu comes off the block, and let's say somebody like Lauren does have to go up with her as well, she's certainly getting more votes than somebody like Lauren. So Morgan is in, I would say, significant danger coming into the eviction this week.
Yeah, Morgan is sitting there like, yeah, I know my closest allies are on the block and I know they're both crying, but like, why is no one checking on me? Like, why is no one concerned that I might have to vote one of them out? And that's going to be terrible. It's like, well, you won't have to because you're essentially on the block right now. You just don't know it. Like, the Zach is coming off. You are going up. So, the crash out would be a little more valid if you had all the information. But yeah, Morgan is in a terrible position right now.
And she really shouldn't be. It's literally, we talked about how the Jimmy move wasn't exactly likely to cause an immediate reprisal, but if Morgan leaves this week, it is directly because of the Jimmy move that she had no business trying to initiate and completely trashed her position in the game to the point where she may end up leaving this week because of it. So that's sort of what Morgan's up to through a good portion of the day. Keanu talks to Vince about the veto, and he talks to Vince because, again, he's on this kick of they really want to take out you or Zach. Keanu has been informed by Ava that he's not really the target, essentially, although Ava is keeping her cards somewhat close to her chest. But Keanu, for the first time basically ever in the game, he is being told he's not a target, which means he's bulletproof. Hey, all right. And obviously, Keanu can win the veto and the blockbuster. So if he wants to keep his pieces around, keep the expendables, the unexpendables around for sure, make sure that Zach is the one that leaves, not Vince. How about this one, Vince? What if I use the veto on you because I have the votes to stay and I can win the blockbuster? And Vince is like, oh my God, Keanu, that would be so amazing. Thank you.
Keanu hears he's the pawn, and you know what you say about pawns. You're so safe. You should use the veto on the main target of the week. So Keanu, not exactly. I think that almost him knowing he's in danger is like better for his game at all points. Like at least he's playing self-interested there, where now he's kind of trying to big brain everything. It's like, Keanu, we need to just stick to the basics. Like use the veto on yourself. It's over, please.
So yeah, I mean, they talk about it now. Again, there's been lots of talk of this kind of thing, mostly from Kelly previously. And this is where, again, the fact that I just told you that Keanu is above average strategically in this house and also came up with this plan yesterday, again, should say a lot.
Yeah.
Will he actually do it is often the question. The only time this has ever really happened, and it's proposed a lot. The idea of I will use the veto on someone else, or I will do, whatever. I will go home. People say this so often. It almost never happens. The only time it's ever really happened was Tucker last year. And that was because Tucker had such a specific thing in mind and also like didn't actually want to be there. And so would Keanu actually do this? I honestly don't think so. But in this house, you can't take anything for granted.
Yeah. I think as soon as he wins the veto, Ava, you better start having one-on-ones because I think conversations will happen. It'll be made clear to Keanu, like, you got to use it on yourself. Don't even, and God, as long as he forecast even to one person that it's a possibility, I think that maybe there's a world in which they assume no one would be dumb enough not to use the veto on themselves in this position. I think it will get used on himself. I'm not super worried.
Yeah, and for Vince's part too, he did of course lean into this. He has been kind of throwing Keanu throwing Zach under the bus a bit. The chat is saying, "What about Dick? What about Brendan?" Different situations, guys. They were loved ones. As far as I'm aware, Vince is not a loved one, and not an actual ally of Keanu's either. This whole idea of I'll use it on somebody else as a game move. That's what I was talking about. So Vince is very much like Zach is like, you know, Zach is like really the person who's friends with everyone, and you know, like compared to Zach, you know, like I'm nothing, you know, like I'm not gonna ever be able to compete with him in competitions, and you know, like he really should be the one that is you know, people are looking to target. And so the idea is that that Keanu again would use the veto on Vince and then beat Zach in the blockbuster, and then people would send Zach home. Now, what would be funny if Keanu did go through with this, of course, is Keanu uses the veto on Vince, and then afterward, Zach stands up and says, actually, I also have a secret 10K veto. And then Keanu finds himself sitting on the block against like Lauren and Morgan. And
here's the problem. I
Wait a
don't want
minute.
Keanu to go home. And I don't even think it's the most likely scenario if those were the final nominations. But I do really like mess, and that would be so messy. It would be so funny.
All right. So that's what Keanu's up to. Zach also, now it makes a little more sense for Zach, but also floats the idea of what if I use the veto on Vinny? He says this to Morgan. Now we know Zach is saying this because he also has his 10K veto. And so if he uses the veto on Vinny, then Vinny comes down, he uses his 10K, they're both safe. There is a valid reason to consider this for Zach. Protecting an ally is important in the game, and this is a scenario where you could both stay, try your best to maintain the structure that you have. You got unlucky with this HOH, but given that the odds are pretty decent that the next one is physical, you could hope that you could pick that up, retaliate, reestablish your dominance, and scatter the other side to the wind like you were supposed to this week. That is a very real possibility. And if they manage to keep their numbers, you know, well enough, then they could still potentially do that. Especially a sign of good faith, like using a veto on someone else like that, would really help solidify and bond your side together in ways that, you know, you might not have otherwise been able to. That said, it does use up the veto, the 10K veto, for no, you know, for that reason, and not to save himself. And it's still theoretically good for at least one more week after this, if not 3 more weeks after this. And, you know, not to mention the fact that, yeah, you're then giving up $10,000. And on top of that, you're doing it to protect Vince. And in the process, likely sacrificing either Lauren or Morgan. And so, you know, is that a worthwhile trade? Probably not. But, you know, it's obviously something that he is considering. He asks Morgan about it. Morgan, not knowing about his 10K power, says, don't even think about that. No, you should not do that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's the problem. Is it's not like you get to name the renom. Like, one of your allies is still going up. There are enough allies that you have in this house where like the sides are basically split in their minds well enough that it is still going to be a net negative. You're still losing one of your absolute closest allies. So while I can understand the instinct, I think it'd be a big mistake.
Yeah, because I agree, because think of it this way too. You are all but guaranteed, and maybe if you think you can for sure gather the votes to keep Morgan or Lauren, where you definitely for sure couldn't with Vince, which actually isn't even true either. I think that either of them are maybe even more likely to leave than Vince, which means leaving Vince on the block is actually probably the best bet. You could maybe make the argument for it, but in this world that we're living in, it really, I don't think, makes sense. Mostly because if he keeps his 10K power, he does take a hit this week. You then go into the following week, you still have the 10K power, you still have the same ability. Even if you do lose that HOH and you're up on the block again, now you have the choice to do it again if you want. This time, you only have 2 other people to protect. And maybe it's even easier because now you can protect 2 of your 3, and then the third one might be able to win Blockbuster, and now all of a sudden you've protected everyone. Or worst case scenario, you take another hit that following week. And worst case scenario, again, you're back on the block, and now that there's only 2 of you, and you theoretically have the choice to make that again. This time, with the actual ability to protect the both of you. Not to mention the possibility of one of you not being nominated in the first place, like what's happening right now, using the veto on the other one and then using the 10K that way. That's just so much more effective of a use of the power in general than using it in this way and just trading one number for another. Again, if it were like Vinny is a guaranteed number 1 comp beast, loyal to the death player, and Morgan was a wild card, not winning comps, not super loyal, then maybe it's worth the trade. But that's not the case. That is not the case.
Yeah, Vinny loyal and Morgan bad at comps. Those are not 2 things that I'm thinking right now. So definitely, if anything, like Zach, keep that 10K. You got it. You're fine. You don't need these allies.
So the feeds apparently have just gone down for the veto draw today. But worth noting for the veto draw, of course, is that Zach and Vince talked about who to choose if they had the ability. And they were initially thinking they could choose, one of them would choose Morgan, one of them would choose Lauren, but then eventually came to the conclusion that they should just choose Morgan. And if they can choose both, they would choose Morgan and Lauren. And so the idea being that the 2 of, if either of them won, that they would use the veto on them, on one of them, and then, continue on from there. So chances are higher that Morgan will play than most. And given that she is the likeliest replacement nominee, that, of course, is pretty important. If Morgan wins and uses the veto on Vince, which she likely would, Zach then likely uses his 10K power. Given that, sorry, just to quickly go on another tangent about this power, given that Zach has already proposed the possibility of using the veto on Vince if he wins it, I think he will not stand in the way and, in fact, actually maybe even push for Morgan to use the power on the veto on Vince so that he can then use his 10K power. Because for Zach to push Morgan to use the veto on him over Vince, just so he doesn't have to use it and then gets caught using it later, that would be pretty devastating for his social game. And it's not the kind of move I think Zach is capable of making. So I do think that Morgan, if she wins, would use it on Vince. Zach would take himself off, and that leaves kind of a dire situation for Ava. If she needs to replace 2 nominees and Morgan is not an option. She's already promised safety to Lauren. She basically would have to renege on that promise. And then what does she do? Does she go Kelly? Does she go Rylie or Catherine? Does she go Ashley? It gets very dicey very quickly.
Yeah. I did see Morgan, I think, at one point during the day talking about how, if I win veto, is it actually not even a good move for me to be using it? Should I not be using the veto? But I think she gets the veto in her hands. There's going to be lots and lots and lots of pressure from all of her allies. I don't see a world in which Morgan does not end up using the veto ultimately.
Yes, relevant to this conversation, by the end of the night, Mickey talks to Morgan. And first of all, tells her about the Bond alliance, which Morgan did not know about. Morgan is pretty upset about hearing about this, that Zach and Vinny made this alliance with Lauren without her. She should be very concerned about this. Now, there is pretty credible reason to not believe it's a significant thing, given that Lauren nominated 2 of those people. But it's still pretty concerning that she was never told about it, right? And so she is worried about that. She then gives Mickey the heads up. They are starting to talk about you, the guys. They're a little bit worried that you might have had something to do with this. And Mickey is pissed about that. Like the fact that they're even starting to question, at which point Morgan walks it back like, oh no, I think it was just talk. I mean, I think they're more suspicious of Rachel. And Mickey is like, I don't know. I don't know about that. And they talk about what to do if they win the veto. And Mickey says, I'm not using it. If Ava doesn't want me to use it, I'm not using it. I don't think that's good for our games. I don't think you should use it either. And Morgan seemingly is, agreeing with that sentiment. But yeah, in reality, it seems unlikely that she wouldn't use it.
Yeah. And then I don't know exactly who Ava would end up picking. I did like at one point, I think it was a joke, but she does say like, should I pick Rylie and tell him if he wins it, that if he uses it, that I put up Catherine? I don't think she'll go through with that. I feel like maybe a little bit of some strong arming, but at the same time, a very hilarious thought.
I think there's a very easy play there, actually. I think that you talk to Rylie. Now, so something I forgot to mention, after Rylie talked with Zach, he, of course, also talked with Vinny. Rylie is doing Vince right now. Like, he's doing the Vince. He's like, oh, everyone wants me. Everyone's going to expect me to use a veto on them. Maybe I got to throw this thing. And so Rylie would likely throw the veto. But I think there's an easy play here, which is, hey, Rylie, I know you're a competitor. I know you just want to get in there and win things. And I know it goes against, your code. It goes against the core of your being to want to throw a competition. So here's the thing. I would love to pick you for this competition. I would love for you to go in there and win it and like show off what you can do. And here's the thing too. So if you do win, I will pretend that I'm going to put up Catherine if you use it. And that can be your excuse to not use it. You can go around and be like, sorry guys, I got to protect my girl. Ava's going to put her up if I use this veto. And I will take all the heat for that. I'm going to say, sorry, I threatened to put Catherine up. So obviously Rylie can. Obviously I wouldn't do that. I love you guys, but we're going to use that as the excuse.
I like it a lot. I do see a world in which 2 weeks from now, Rylie is like, I remember when Ava threatened to put up Catherine. So a little bit concerning from that point of view, but for right now, it sounds awesome.
So that's yes, that's where the veto draw seems to stand. For the record, that was all fan fiction for me. That did not happen. So Rylie, for his part, throughout the day is again talking with Keanu, talking with Zach and Vinny. And remember, Rylie, one of the people that Ava flagged is like one of her core people. Like she really trusts Rylie, really wants Rylie to be included. Anytime Will mentioned Rylie and Catherine, she was like, no, I love them. Or at least Rylie. Riley's one of the people I locked in with early. Rylie, for his part during the day, F Ava. Oh my God. I hate her. She's not even playing the game. What is she even doing? Not talking to people? Not doing one-on-ones? Ugh. Gross.
Yeah. I feel like people love Rylie in this house. And meanwhile, Riley's talking to like Catherine and Lauren being like, I would never speak to anyone in this house besides you two out of here. And I was like, I believe that.
Like any of them.
I do believe he would speak to Lauren and Catherine here and no one else.
Rylie, the guy that only talks to the women he finds pretty in any party.
Huh.
So that's where Rylie seems to stand. He also talks to Catherine talks to Rylie about like how she doesn't really trust Mickey. She's like, I know Mickey seems to love you, but like I'm kind of concerned. And Rylie kind of agrees. He's kind of like, yeah, I do notice that Mickey doesn't exactly ask what our opinions on anything are. And she's like, right. But she kind of continues to be concerned. This is like a long and pretty gross conversation. So, you don't have to get all of it. I'm trying to extract mostly the game relevant stuff. At this point, you know who Rylie is. It's just more of that. A lot more of it. But I believe what Catherine is trying to say to him while he is trying to prevent her from saying it, and all of that, is like, I'm concerned that I'm basically only playing the game through you. Like that everything goes through you, Mickey. People don't want to put me up because they think that you'll be mad about it. Like, I don't really have anything in the game. I would like to feel comfortable in that way. I feel like I'm worthless in the game. And he's like, "Oh, Catherine, don't you dare. You're not worthless. You've done at least one thing right. You won me over, and I'm protecting you."
Don't too much. Can't do that reenactment.
Listen, I can't.
No.
I can't listen to you do this. All right, you should be happy to be here. That's what you should be doing right now. And then of course keeps begging her to cuddle with him, and she keeps saying no. And then later in the night is like, "Oh, by the way, I think you've been talking to Lauren too much. People have been noticed. Even Mickey mentioned something about it, so you should probably lay off of that a bit."
Yeah, you're concerned.
The
about
one
having...
person you talk at all with other than me.
Yeah, you're worried about having not enough connections in this house. Actually, you have too many. You're talking to as someone who's not me, and I really don't like that. So
just let me handle it all. That was my. He didn't say. I. That's what I got from it.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad, and I had to live it once, and now I've had to live it twice. And I am not happy.
So that's going on there. She did have a conversation with Ava earlier in the day, where she sort of expressed similar thoughts, like, people don't even really ask me about Rylie, or how I feel about it. It's clear that she does. She's kissing him. We had to experience that in detail on Big Brother Unlocked last night. It was otherwise a pretty good show, I think.
Yeah.
But and had some interesting some tidbits. By the way, we talked about P-Gate and the pregnancy argument. We saw both of those on Unlocked. Very fun stuff. If you didn't check it out. But that's really, I think, where we stand heading into the day today. Things are very fluid, not only because of the new HOH and all of that, but also just how they normally would be, because we're heading into this veto competition, and there's a lot that can happen, especially with Zach's extra veto. And so a lot in the air in terms of what will happen as a result of this veto competition.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be absolutely glued trying to find out what happens next, because I feel like this is so up in the air at this point, where we could have 2 people down, 2 people up. Things are not set at all, and none of these 3 could be on the block by the end of the week. So I am firmly locked in for the rest of the week.
All right. Anything else to mention, Scally?
No, I feel like we did a good job taking out, the gross moments, the fun moments, the strategic moments. So I think it was a good coverage of the day.
Yes, they are mentioning in the chat. It was actually Zach brought up RHAP. I think he was like, people referencing things like RHAP. He probably came across us in research, is my assumption. At which point Rachel said, "I love them," and talked about the updates and everything. So shout out from Rachel. But yeah, that's about it. That's about the day. I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. In the meantime, check out my book, Behind the Mirror, that I wrote about the show. You can pre-order it at taranarmstrong.com. Officially endorsed now by Jerry O'Connell. So if you like sliders or Stand By Me, or The Love Boat, check out the book. And of course, all the other stuff we got going on heading into the weekend for our Big Brother coverage. You can find me on YouTube and Twitch as well. Scally, where can people find you?
Ooh, people can find me on Twitter at Brian_Scally, on Blue Sky at Brian Scally, on Twitch at twitch.tv/bscally, where anything I'm doing will be there. Like me and Kirsten wrapping up Beyond the Villa for Love Island over on the We Know Love Island feed, and me and Ligori talking about The Challenge, both new and old, over on the Free Agents podcast.
All right. Well, that is what we have for you then. Thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.